to Monday Marks. My name is Sharon Saccone and I'm a mixed media artist and I love to experiment. So today's video is about stretching some of my abilities to see how far I can take them. I have recently been rediscovering acrylic skins. I haven't really used them very often lately. I have in the past. In fact, I've done whole artworks that are just using acrylic skins. And so today I decided to go really big and experiment with creating acrylic skins on my 16 by 20 inch jelly plate. I figure it's a great surface and I'm able to pull it right off, I hope. We're gonna find out, off of the surface, and then I can cut it up and use it as collage material. In the end, I'm a collage artist and I love being able to piece together things and layer them in such a way that it creates incredible depth and surface textures and things to look deeply into, so that I'm always keeping the viewer's interest. So today, I hope you'll come along with me as I try something I've never tried before to see how it works and if I'm able to work this big with an acrylic skin. So let's give it a try. Now it's time to add the matte medium, and I have to admit a viewer had recommended putting an isolation coat down before adding all of the color, and I think I wish I had done that this time, but we'll see how it all comes out as I try to peel it off. So 3 coats should hopefully do it. So here is the final skin. It's been drying for 24 hours and I'm ready to give this a try and see if I can pull it off in one sheet. And you might be wondering, why don't I just pull it on a piece of paper? But it's because I want the skin. I don't want this to be attached. This is the jelly plate, and most people print directly from this onto the surface that they want it to go on. But I want to use this as a piece of collage paper. So, or not paper, but a collage skin. So what I've done is just slightly release this from the edge, just so that it'll be a little bit easier for me to start. And I have a piece of freezer paper, and I'm going to flip it over to the shiny side. This just happens to be the right side, the right size for the whole piece. And this was a suggestion by one of my viewers, who said, you know, so that you don't have to worry about it sticking, why don't you take it off right onto the wax paper? So I'm gonna give this a try and see how it goes. So I'm gonna pull this up. And you'll have to bear with me. I've never done this before. I've never done a skin this big. So I'm not 100% sure how this is going to work out. I'm hoping it's going to work out just fine. I'm not even sure of the speed that I need to go at, but we're just going to gently peel it back. A little bit of paint stayed on the jelly plate, but that happens even when you pull a print, and that's not going to bother me because I work in layers so much. Okay, so I'm just going to keep pulling this back on itself. And oh my goodness, it is coming off pretty much just like I had hoped. Definitely, I would recommend releasing it from your edges so that you're not stretching it. And I might even put it back down and release all of the edges before I pull the whole thing. And this is, I'm pulling this up in reverse. So I painted, you know, basically this face down. And because this is transparent, I can use either side of the skin. So I can decide which side I like better. Yeah, I highly recommend release it from the edges first. So that is our first learning moment. But this is definitely an easier way to pull this off using the wax paper. This is actually freezer paper, not wax paper, but it would work the same way. All right, I'm actually gonna lay this down. I've got a lot of it off, but I do want to release the edges more, because right here on the edges is where the gloss medium has spilled over. So it's just kind of grabbing, and I think as soon as I release it, it's going to be a lot easier. So like I said, there's our first learning moment, you know, trying something that I have never tried before. Certainly not on this scale. This is very large. I think this is I think it's 16. Is it 16 by 20? I'll leave that on the screen, the actual size of the jelly plate, or underneath the video. And this is by Jelly Arts. I've had it for years, and I've used this printing plate for so many things. And what's really nice is I've used it to do layered monotypes, and the way I layered them, I had to lay tape and register, and this big plate just allowed me to really play. So I highly recommend this size, because you can tape anything off and you can have any size print you want. You don't have to stick with the smaller size that they offer. And this is so flexible. I can lift it right up off the paper as well. No problems at all there. Oh yeah, this would have been probably a nightmare had I not released it. So I'm glad I stopped, did a little rewind, and I'm giving this a try. You're watching this live. I haven't done this before, and I didn't even know for sure if it was gonna work. But that's the part of stretching your practice and the different processes that you're used to when you stretch what you're doing and try different ways, whether that's stretching the scale, stretching the materials to see how many different ways you can get the materials to work for you. It's a really important idea in order to find new methods, have your artwork go in a different direction than you had originally planned. It's just a really creative working way. So there's 3 layers of gel medium on here, and I allowed the gel medium to dry in between. I also did a little bit of the super matte medium on here just because I wanted to see how that would behave on top of another artwork, because the gloss medium is so shiny and the super matte is not. I thought it might create a little bit of like a ghost effect when I put it on top of my collage papers. So I thought that would be such a neat thing to try. Okay, so I released it all the way around, so I'm going to bring this back. Lay this back onto the paper, just on this little fold. And so far this is working great to keep my skins from sticking to each other, so pretty pleased with that. Oh yeah, now it's coming back. So you can see how much I'm manhandling it, and it is fine. It's not ripping. I don't have any holes so far. I can see the matte, the super matte, so I'm kind of excited to see how that looks like once I get it onto collage. There is a difference, so that's pretty cool. So another thing I'm thinking would be interesting, I'm using my arm, but it might be like a broom handle or even a rolling pin. I have a rolling pin right here. This is the beauty of working on your kitchen counter. I'm thinking that the rolling pin might help keep that paper on there, so I'm almost rolling it off like a print, which this is. Yeah. Ah, that was the key, a rolling pin. I'm almost there. Running out of room on my countertop. So I'm gonna just pull this forward a little. This is all just so nobody thinks it's easy. And release. There we go. So I was able to pull that off, and I think the paper, whoever had recommended that, I think that was really, really helpful. And I was able to get that off in one piece. I think I only saw one hole, and only a little bit of the image actually stuck to the jelly plate, which happens anyway. I think 3 layers was key for this. So I'm really pleased that that experiment worked, and the rolling pin was helpful, and definitely releasing all of the edges was a really important part of getting it off in one piece without it ripping at the edges. And like I said, I think I only found one hole. So thanks for coming along on that experiment, and I'm going to show you how I plan to use these, and we'll see how that goes. So the whole point of doing this exercise was I had these artworks that I really just didn't know where I wanted to take them, and they've just been laying around for a long time, and I just didn't have a way forward yet. And I thought, well, I mean, I can make something like this anytime, but this would add something different, something maybe a little unexpected. So I have two papers underneath here. And because I did use the jelly plate, and anybody who's used a jelly plate knows that your edges can get kind of yucky around the outside. So I did pick up some paint, and you can kind of see that here on the edges. So I'm just cutting that off and getting rid of it so that it doesn't end up in the artwork itself. I don't mind a little grunge, but for this piece, that's not really the look that I'm going for. So just cutting that edge off gets rid of some of that that yucky paint that was stuck around the edges. And I'm not worried 100% about my edges right now. This first piece, I decided I wanted to place right here. And this is what I love about collage, is that you can audition everything before you go to attach it. And if there's something I don't like, I can cut it away. I can get rid of it. So I'm going to go ahead and use this piece. I like how it lays, and yes, I could have just done a pickup off the jelly plate, but I don't know if I would have been 100% confident to do that and feel like it was where I wanted it to be. So this is going to show up even more once I use some medium and adhere this, because this still needs some glue. And I can easily trim the edges once that's done. So there's one skin. And I did the same thing over here. I liked how this one laid and how it looked. Now I have 6 of these, and 6 of this size is not going to work. So I'm going to end up with smaller pieces, which is exactly what I usually work with collage anyway. I work with smaller pieces. So I'm going to cut this away. And again, I can cut off those edges. And now I have some other pieces to play with. So I just wanted to show you how I might do that. So just get rid of some of the yucky stuff, but get it out of the way, because skins will stick to itself. And once it sticks, it's really hard to get off. So get any of these little pieces away that you know you're not going to want. So these I might use as a whole piece. So I've got those 2. And then I've got these 4 that I can play with. And, you know, again, I could put a whole piece, but I can also just do a small piece. It doesn't have to be the whole thing. And because this is clear, so this is what I mean about auditioning, but because this is clear, I can move things anywhere I want until I'm happy with it. And once I add the medium, I think it's all gonna go clear. I like that there or here. So again, just play, auditioning all of these pieces and figuring out where does that work best. It doesn't even have to stay a rectangle. I could just cut this piece out right here and maybe use it towards an edge. In fact, I think I'm going to cut this off just so it's a little more flexible for me to play with. I think I kind of like it. I think I kind of like it there. And I'm just going to put this one to the side, flip this around. Kind of been interested in playing with the larger leaf shape on here. Maybe move it off to the edge. Ooh, I like that. And then I'm going to cut this off. And that doesn't even go all the way to the end, but it doesn't have to. So it's not covering up the whole piece of paper. I'm going to move that off slightly because I'm going to have to cut this rough edge. And do I want to bring a little, I think I kind of do. I think I want to bring some of this yellow and green up into this area. Yep, and I'm just gonna pop this off. Let me come back to this one. I don't like this part, so I'm gonna get rid of it. And which one of these? I think I'm gonna do that. And I'm gonna cut this away. There must be something about this Prussian blue that is just a little too distracting for me because I keep cutting it out. All right, so what I feel like is kind of cool is that I started with 6 artworks, and just by playing with these skins, I was able to completely transform 5 of them. So that was a really big skin, and honestly, I didn't even need to use all of it, and I might trim back some of it. I might decide that in the end, maybe I don't want this little piece here, and I want to have some of the underlayer show through a little bit more. So it's really fun to play with. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to speed this up with a little bit of some gloss medium, and I'm going to start attaching these artworks together so you can see how they look like in the end. All I can say is, phew, it worked. And if it didn't, so what? All I'm working with is some acrylic paint, some medium, and if I don't experiment, I'm never going to be able to go further or deeper into my artwork and my process. So I always say it's about play, practice, and process to see what we can come up with, how we can improve and go deeper. So I'm really excited that the Gelli plate worked. I knew it probably would. I didn't really have concerns about that, but I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to pull it off all together as one. If I didn't, it would have not been a real concern either, because again, as a collage artist, I'm used to working with pieces and parts of things and putting them together like a puzzle to create something new. I am going to go a little bit further with the works that I experimented with. I had originally started with some ink paintings and I just didn't know what to do with them. So now I have covered them with some paint skins in certain areas. And I think my next steps will be to probably either work with some acrylic pens, or I might do some hand painting on top of that just to add another layer. And just because you do get a little bit of a ridge where one surface ends and another begins, I'm going to use some pouring medium over the top to level everything out. So if you're ever concerned about how thick something is, whether you have different layers of collage paper like watercolor or Bristol board over something that's a little bit thinner, you can use pouring medium that is completely transparent, and it will self-level and create a level surface over the top of your work. So if I get those done before I send this video out, I'll give you a little show of how I completed the work.